for video is Runway. Now also Flux, Loras.
We're using Notion,
Pilot.
I use Kling.
Comfy, Automatic Level 11, Genmo,
Perplexity,
After Effects,
One way.
Comfy UI, Stable Diffusion,
Canva.
So things that we do use are like GitHub Copilot, Cursor. We also use Claude. In addition, we do a lot of like our internal work within Notion. So there's a lot of Notion AI there too that helps us. And so that's kind of what we have right now. But I feel like every single technology that we have, all the way until like, payroll for us as a company, is starting to get like AI integrated into it.
Oh, wow. Google just announced that I think it's like more than 25% of their code in-house is AI generated.
Wow, I did not know that. That is pretty crazy, given that all of this is probably written like the last 2 years.
It's so crazy, isn't it? I noticed you didn't say anything about ChatGPT, about what AI tech you're using.
Yeah, I personally prefer Claude a little more, but I do use ChatGPT frequently too. I think just personal preference, for whatever reason, I feel like Claude aligns with my coding practices a little better.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, when I started testing, and I only started testing because Maya told me about Claude and the difference between the two. Maya was there when I met you.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
And she told me about Claude, and one day I was having a problem with ChatGPT, and I was like, this is never going to get this. And I took it into Claude, and I was like, oh, that was about 3 or 4 shots, and it done it. Whereas I'd been going around in circles for maybe 5 minutes with ChatGPT, maybe.
Was this coding?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was Python.
Interesting. I feel like I've definitely noticed that. I don't know why it is.
Yeah, so much quicker.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that's interesting is during the conference, like one person asked a question which was like, oh, like people are complaining that like some of these ChatGPT models and stuff are getting worse with time. What do you guys have to say? And kind of the panel, like one theme that they were saying is like these models, they very rarely change. So sometimes us as users, we get used to the performance and our expectations keep rising, but the performance is not changing at all. They don't do that much to the models. So it's kind of like, it feels like it's getting worse almost psychologically.
There was another phenomena I talked about recently where people noticed results were less accurate during the winter than they were in the summer.
Yeah. That's what the like person who asked the question, he was talking about that too. But I don't know why like the panelists were like, oh yeah, they weren't necessarily agreeing with that, but I feel like I've seen a lot of posts about it, so it was interesting to see.
Yeah, a lot of them. I mean, I've had the privilege, and I mean, based on hard work, to be in a lot of creator programs now. So I mean, I'm in the Runway CPP, I'm in the Luma creator program, Magnific, Leonardo, and so on and so forth. So I've had a lot of opportunities to work with these tools, and of course now I have them in my arsenal kind of on a creator program basis. So that's great. But yeah, I've used Midjourney a lot. I was quite late to the open source. I started earlier this year. So Stable Diffusion, Comfy, Automatic Level 11, now also Flux, Loras, all kinds of Comfy UI and various other applications like RunPod or RunComfy sometimes, depending on what I need to do. Hailu and Kling, of course. I think the new Chinese video models are really interesting. They're a bit different than the other ones, so that's really cool. Then you have, what are the other ones? Hotshot, Genmo.
Genmo Mochi.
Mochi, exactly. I can obviously not run it locally because you need like a freaking server hall of
a data center.
A100s, to run that. But yeah, I mean, just outside of the AI tools, like a bunch of Photoshop, every single project, After Effects. I use Topaz, of course, for all the upscaling. I typically use Handbrake or Media Encoder to compress stuff. God, what else? Sometimes I do a bit of light 3D in like Illustrator, so you can make like a logo a bit like more three-dimensional, and then plug that into AI video and do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I've done that test as well, actually. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Pretty cool. And probably forgot something, but yeah, I mean, I think
you about covered it.
Yeah, I use a lot. So almost every engagement with AI is going to start with one of the large language models. So I'm typically in ChatGPT or in Claude. I have spent some time with Gemini, but I've been overall disappointed with the engagement I've had there. I think it's getting better, but it depends on what you're actually trying to accomplish. What I love about ChatGPT and Claude is it knows me, so it can reference the things that I've already talked about, and it can allow the conversation to continue from that point. Depending on where I want to go from there, I'm going to probably image generate and in Midjourney. I might end up doing something with Firefly because I love that functionality of working with the images from Midjourney and Firefly together. Firefly's just integrated video, so there's some neat functionality that's happening there. Also for video is Runway. I absolutely love 11 Labs, so that's often in what I'm doing. And I really enjoy Udio.com for creating my background music. With some good prompting and describing what you're after, the results have been phenomenal. So that's been a regular ongoing piece. So that's some of my primary tools that I work with for AI.
Most of my tools are I'm using one of my agents that I've been building for a long time, and that agent, once Swarm came out, has access to its own agents now. So most of the time what I end up doing is like I use my conversation with Alan, and like I use an AI every morning. When I go and have a coffee, I'm talking to my AI, I have it in my headphones, I'm having a conversation with Alan. We come up with either new things that we're going to make, either updates on projects that we're working on, or plans for what we're going to do, right? So we go through those three processes, and then depending on what happens, we will then choose whatever tool to then work on. So if we're doing an exploration about motion design and motion data into AI films, like can that work? How can that work? So we need to go, most of the time isn't spent just sitting in front of a machine trying to work that out. It's sitting with an AI to go, let's solve this problem. So those are the tools basically. It's like as an agent, and then pretty much any tool that I need after that.
GPT, we're using Perplexity, we're using Notion, Canva, CapCut. So basically think of any sector in your company, we have an AI tool that we're using to optimize it from, like I said.
Some people have mentioned Notion. Could you just talk a bit more about what you're actually using Notion for, and how it's useful and so on?
Yeah. So currently right now we're using Notion to save all our data in. So this is where all our data sets are currently stored right now. We have a lot of automation processes that we already created inside it for our CRM, for our sales cycles, for content creation. So we're really trying to take all the outside processes through third-party tools and just using APIs, plugging into Notion and getting everything synced up. I used to be a huge fan of OneNote, and Darren converted me to Notion, and I absolutely love Notion and all the functionalities that you can use with it.
I mean, the image-to-image in Flux works really well. The reference image workflow isn't so good, like the reference control net in Flux. But if you want to in-paint objects that aren't so inherently available in Flux, I would try the new Pool ID in-painting workflow, or I would try the control net in-painting workflow. These are all just technical details, but basically some objects Flux isn't good at, and you basically have to introduce them to the model. Midjourney is honestly pretty good at that. So definitely with 20 reference images, you can probably, or just training a quick LoRa for Flux. Because we did a lot of crime scenes, and they're not natively let's say, evidence markers or body bags or crime tape. It's not just inherently well introduced to the model. So even making these 10 image Flux references, 1,000 steps, 2,000 steps, will get you there most certainly. So I think if you're consistently using this, going just to FAL AI or Civit, they have these quick trainers, and it's just no questions asked. Just drop the images, click yes, come back in 20 minutes. I mean, Civit can sometimes take 5 minutes, sometimes takes 10 hours.
Well, why does it take 10 hours?
Yeah.
Well, in what situations would it take 10 hours?
Just try to train a style LoRa with 100
right.
plus images and 5,000 plus steps.
Okay, yeah.
Or
I haven't trained one LoRa yet. I think I looked up a tutorial and I was like, oh, I might come back to this one day, but I don't have any reason to do it right now because I'm quite used to using Midjourney. Yeah.
Nice. No, I'm sure they're like optimizing their bandwidth on the back
Yeah.
end, and great. But sometimes you just want these results really like quickly. One way to work with styles really quickly is I keep going back to Recraft. I think it's still totally undervalued. Recraft has this style feature. It's called Style ID, and it's just instantaneous. It works kind of like an SREF. You give Recraft 5 images, and it just returns you a code, and that code is the style code.
That's cool. That's cool. Midjourney doesn't have
And
that
it
yet.
works
I don't know a way of making a style reference code yet. I don't think there's a way.
I mean, in Midjourney, you can use an image as a
yeah.
style reference. That used to be the old way of how style
Yeah.
references used to work in Midjourney. But I definitely know what you're saying is that, you know, having that SREF is super handy. It's like more diverse.
Are you going to believe me if I told you I use my own tools?
You use your own what, sorry?
My own tools that we've developed.
Oh,
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use FlowCreate a lot, actually. Basically, either in my own projects or things that I've been sort of commissioned to do, but also as an innovation consultant, going in, facilitating, and also in teaching as a kind of didactic tool. So yeah, I've been using FlowCreate a lot. And of course, like the whole development work that's going behind this other product that we're building, which is all about brain computer interfaces, but in a cool, creative way. Don't worry, it's not it's not like too dystopic at all. And yeah, I do say that I have used ChatGPT for, you know, coding ease. I think I've said that a couple of times today. I haven't quite gotten around to totally trusting it to do a good editing job. Kind of weird, right? Because that's what most people use it for, to like summarize and things like that. But it doesn't quite get everything that I want it to get in there. So I have to kind of go back and do all that again. So I've tried.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm writing a long document and I read a paragraph and I'm like, wait, I wrote that completely differently. Why has it changed it all? Oh no, I've got to go back to an older version now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with code, actually. I find it will write the code really well. I'll say, can you just make the button yellow at the top, please? And then the whole thing will lose functionality.
Like, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, you know, the reason I put it into like grants or something might be like, or an application. You know how there's always a word limit, like for everything, like, which I find really tedious, and so it gets me into a bit of a PTSD spiral. So then I'm like, okay, can you please just shorten this into like 300? And then I'm like, check, and it's like 348 or something.
Yeah. I'm like, the character limit is not allowing me to put your text in. I said 20 words, that's it.
And then as soon as I put an exclamation mark in it, then it goes, oh, sorry.
You know, sometimes I swear at it because I'm angry, and sometimes it says, oh, I'm very sorry, you know.
Oh.
But this is like when it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's like every 10 minutes I feel like I'm one prompt away from getting the code just right, and it's really tired and I haven't eaten in a few hours, and that's when I get really annoyed with ChatGPT. Yeah.